Hi everyone, it's Ashley Swearengin and it is Women's History Month. I am so excited to have a few minutes to share with you. Thank you, Dr. Goldsmith and the leadership team at Fresno City College for inviting this conversation and asking some of us to record some thoughts as we launch Women's History Month. I'm really excited to be a part of this conversation and just want to share some reflections with you in response to some questions. I will say kind of emotional questions for me. As I started to read these, I thought, oh, might tear up a little bit. But hey, I'm that way. I cry easily. But anyway, hopefully these thoughts will be inspirational and supportive for you as we reflect on the powerful, powerful leadership and impact that women have had throughout our history. So let's get started. What motivates you to do your work? What is your why? Well, to answer that question, let me just say what my work is. Today, I serve as the CEO of the Central Valley Community Foundation, and I'm closing out on about 25 years of what I would call community and economic development work in Fresno, the Central San Joaquin Valley, and the entire 8-county region. So what is that, community and economic development? Well, essentially, what drives me, my why, is wanting people to experience financial freedom and economic mobility. So why do we do that? Well, not surprisingly, I had experiences in my childhood. We're all impacted by our childhood. I had experiences in my childhood where there was some economic uncertainty in my life. My dad was a preacher, my mom, public school teacher, and they were very frugal. They worked really hard. They saved money. I always had a roof over my head. I always had clothes on my back. I always had food in my belly. But there were some times when my family went through job loss. And I remember the trauma of coming home from school and my dad's car being in the garage when he was supposed to be at work. And just the fear walking in and, seeing him sitting in that chair and the look on his face like, what just happened? And it shook me. As at that time, junior high student, a few other times in my life, it shook me all the way into adulthood. And when I moved to Fresno and started working in this area as a young professional, started to realize that I was living in a place that was experiencing chronic economic distress, and that my experience, however mild it was relative to the conditions other people were experiencing, was happening tens of thousands of times every day. And in fact, some kids were going to school knowing that their parents hadn't seen work, or their mom or dad or guardian, grandma, grandpa, aunt, uncle, that they had not experienced really any access to economic opportunity. So that grips me. To this day, it grips me that that people would experience that kind of uncertainty and all of the things that are triggered when you experience financial instability. I think the student body at Fresno City College, pardon me, is probably one of the most inspirational group of people I can imagine when I think of what you are choosing to do, what you are choosing to push back against, and how you are choosing to propel yourself forward despite the setbacks, despite the having to blaze your own trail. Like, honestly, you guys in your families, who you represent, like, you're my why. I don't want kids to have to go through those kinds of things. I mean, obviously we all face struggles and difficulties, but I just feel like as a community, we need to come together, organize ourselves, and remove some of these barriers and obstacles to economic opportunity. And so that's why I do what I do. And we carry a heavy, heavy agenda at the Community Foundation, doing everything we can to try to put financial supports and organize community in such a way that people have access to economic mobility. So I love doing it. It is a lifetime assignment. I now understand. I thought it was going to be easy, but it is not. And there are many things that have to be addressed to create economic opportunity and mobility for the residents of the Central Valley. So anyway, that's my why. I went through economic hardship to a very mild extent compared to what other families experience. And I don't want them to have to experience that. There are other challenges in life that, obviously, people have to deal with. If you go back and give advice to your younger self, what would you share and what would you tell a woman today who may be facing the same issues? Okay, the advice to my younger self would be this. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. And don't get ahead of yourself. I actually say this to my now 21-year-old daughter all the time. You know, it is so typical for young women to assume they should be farther along in life than is needed or even humanly possible. Like, be okay with where you're at right now. I love it when women carry big vision, big dreams, etc. I want to inspire that for people today. But you know what? Know that, gosh, if you're carrying a big vision, a big dream, it's going to take you a lot of little steps to get there, and be okay with that process. And I think I missed out on a lot of emotion, a lot of life, because I was so focused on the next thing and really, or in the big thing that I was trying to push for. And I really think that was fear. I think I was afraid I wasn't going to make it. And so I just like tried to doggy paddle my whole life to keep my head above water. And it turns out I was in like waist deep water, which may be an oversimplification, but yeah, like just don't be afraid. Be okay with where you're at right now. And just know that kind of carry that vision, but take it step by step and enjoy the journey. How many times did I hear that as a kid? Had no idea what it meant. And now here I am saying the same thing. Enjoy the journey and enjoy the struggle of the process. And what advice would I share with women today who may be facing the same issues? Oh gosh. You know, women today, especially women who are in school trying to upgrade their skills, get a new degree or certificate, you know, most likely are doing so for a family. What an incredible challenge to be trying to make your own path and also being a provider for kids who you're trying to turn around and say to them, and you should do the same thing, stay in school, support your kids the best you can. What advice would I give? Well, I don't think I have advice, because I think that they're doing things way harder than what I'm doing. Pardon the emotion. But I have encouragement. And I have appreciation that I want to share. I am so grateful that you're doing what you're doing for your families. And I just believe that every seed that you sow of faith and hard work and lifting up your family and other people, like, you're going to see the reward. I believe that. I believe that with all my heart. So I can just encourage you today to keep doing what you're doing, because you're going to reap. You're going to reap. Okay. I cry a lot easier these days, the older I get, and also COVID. I think being on camera so much for Zoom calls has made us all just like a little bit squishy. So I hope that y'all don't think that was too weird. All right. What words of wisdom can you share that you believe is important for today's woman? What gives me hope? Words of wisdom, words of wisdom, words of wisdom. All right. Probably things I've already shared a little bit, just like, man, it's like dig deep and know that what you're investing in and what you're sacrificing for, you're going to have influence over that area of life for the rest of your life. So wherever you're making sacrifices, wherever you're taking risks, you're going to experience greater authority and greater influence. And so just hold that, and what I have learned is that people around you may not see that. And community, culture, society may not see what you're doing. So you have to hold it. You have to know you're not necessarily going to be affirmed for what you're doing while you're doing it. So hold on to that and just know, like, that's not the proof you need that you're doing the right thing. Having other people come alongside and be like, oh, I see what you're doing. Boy, that's really great. Don't worry about that. What you're doing in faith, what you're risking for yourself, for other people, it's going to bear fruit. And just hold on to that tight. And know you have to set your face like flint and know that that's true. Okay, who thought this would be like a gushy, former mayor cry fest? Probably Dr. Goldsmith did. That's probably why she made me do this. Okay, what woman inspired you the most? How did she give you hope? Well, I have been inspired by a lot of women. There is no doubt. My goodness, I'm surrounded by women who inspire me. Have you guys noticed that Fresno is like heavily led by women? I had somebody observe that to me from the Bay Area. This journalist came down a couple years ago, and he was doing a story on various aspects of change in Fresno. And he was like, hey, like, how did you guys pull this off? Like, kind of everybody in charge of stuff is female in Fresno. And I was like, yeah, it's our little secret. We're running the world down here. Anyway, so there's a lot of women who inspire me. I mean, in my own life, my mom was clearly so influential in my life, and I would say that still does, thankfully she's still alive. She's tough. She's so committed to truth and character. Like, that was drilled into me. Like honesty, truthful, never lie. Like, man, she really, really, really modeled that. And cemented that in my personality and my character. So clearly she was hugely influential in my life, more than anybody else. Her mom, my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, probably was my most inspirational. And I think what it was just like unconditional love. I experienced that from her. So, yeah, she worked 2 jobs to get her 3 kids through college. So I'm a second generation college goer, which is a huge privilege. My parents are first generation college attenders, and my grandmother had 3 kids. She put them all through college between my grandfather and my grandmother, 3 jobs. My grandmother was a secretary and another clerical assignment in the public school system. So yeah, so she would say to me, every time I would see her, she lived 2 hours from me. We would see them maybe every couple months while I was growing up. So she had a very consistent presence in my life. And she would say, Ashley, get a good education, because it's the only thing that no one can ever take away from you. And it was like a little riddle to me. I was like, wait, how can no one take your education? Oh yeah, because it goes inside your brain, and like you alone own. Like, people can steal your car, people could rob your house, people could, there's any other material possession can be taken from you, but your education, your knowledge, and your personal growth, nobody can take that away from you. So I learned that from my grandmother. So I would say she's clearly been most inspirational. But again, so many other women, like, holy cow, we live in an incredible community to see women leadership all around us. I think Dr. Goldsmith is a great example of someone who inspires everybody around her. So hopefully you see that too as students and faculty at Fresno City College. What do you do when you face challenges, are discouraged, and lose hope? How do you bounce back? Okay, this is a really key point. The most important determinant in your life is going to be how you deal with disappointment. There are other really important things that you do in life, decisions you make, but I've learned now, particularly learned this as mayor of Fresno during the Great Recession, the Great Drought. The most important thing that you can do every day is decide how you're going to respond to disappointment. If you unlock that experience, you will be unstoppable in life. True words. How are you dealing with disappointment? Because you're going to experience it. You already have. We all do. We all will. What are you going to do when you're confronted with intense disappointment? Here's what I have learned. I'm a stuffer. So I will do just about anything to avoid feeling that disappointment. So I have learned to not do that. I have learned to be honest about disappointment and hurt and pain. And what that looks like for me, believe it or not, I'm kind of introverted. I know a lot of stuff comes out the mouth, but actually I need quiet time. I need off-camera time. I need alone time to process, to really get in touch with my feelings, because otherwise I'm just going to go on to the next thing and try to stay busy. And being busy is a really good way to stuff your feelings and not be present and in touch with what's going on. That's my pop culture psychology for you today. Your psychology faculty are probably like, well, Swearengin, stick to your day job. So you can correct anything I'm saying if it's not accurate. But I have learned I have to write stuff down. I journal a lot. And it is in that exercise that I really get in touch with how I'm feeling. And when I'm being honest about being disappointed with something, it allows me to let it go, you know, and to make the decision to get back up and to keep going. But if I internalize that disappointment and act like it's not there, it's going to start weighing me down. So hopefully that makes sense and is helpful when you're facing challenges. You know, I'm kind of one of those people where I'll be like, I'll go for days, weeks, whatever, and then find that, like, gosh, what is going on? I just feel so off. And I usually have to go back to the place where I left faith and encouragement, where I like kind of set that at the curb. And then I have to like figure out why I did that. And then when I do, I can let it go and I can choose to keep going. So be in touch with disappointment. And sometimes you need help. You know, sometimes we experience so much trauma and pain and disappointment in our lives. We need other people to help us process that. Find a good friend, a trusted friend on campus. There are resources, I'm sure, counselors and other support systems to help you deal with disappointment. But just be honest about it. We all have common heroic powers that we may not use fully. What is your common heroic power that you believe is your best and why? Okay, in my opinion, I do use this fully, but I think I use comedy. I think I use humor. I think that is probably my most routine tool that I pick up to kind of help me ratchet through a situation. It is, I don't know, it's fun. I tend to find most things in life funny. Yeah, if you were to psychoanalyze me, probably a defense mechanism of some sort, but you know what? It's what I got, and I'm going with it. So making other people laugh, making light of a hard situation to kind of keep people motivated, keep things lighthearted, that is my common heroic power, I would say. All right, you guys. Well, I hope this has been encouraging for you and inspirational and giving you some things to think about. I really want you to know, again, to the students and faculty at Fresno City College, to the women of Fresno City College, what you're doing is remarkable. Keep fighting every semester, every course. Keep fighting. Get your education, get your certificate, get your degree, go on to the next step, the next job. You're blazing a trail, and we see you. Others in your community see you, and we're grateful for you. So happy Women's History Month. Hope it's a good one.